Thank you, Secretary Esper, General Milley, for your continued service and your testimony here today. Secretary Esper, is it safe to say that China is a central focus of the national defense strategy?
It is the principal focus.
Is it safe to say that the acquisition of additional ships and aircraft are a central component of meeting that central focus?
Yes, they are, in an appropriate time frame.
Okay. Is the construction of barrier walls or a wall along the southern border, is that contained within the NDS?
Homeland Security is part of the NDS.
But specifically, is the construction of border barriers on our southern border contained within the NDS?
Well, there's a lot of things. A southwest border, there are a lot of things that are not in the NDS that we do and we fund and we put troops against all the time.
Is the reduction in the acquisition of F-35 aircraft and ships as a result of the reprogramming of funds to build additional borders, does that make it more challenging to meet the central focus, in your words, of the rise of China as a peer adversary?
Well, I go, again, based on the recommendation of the chairman that he made to me formally, and I'd say, again, the items that were sourced for the barrier were what we determined to be in the FY20 bill, either excess to need or early to need.
Well, I appreciate, your efforts to try to support the president's reprogramming requests, but you have been very disciplined and very focused on making hard decisions, the discipline and a focus that I share, as a matter of fact. And you have long spoke about the need to cut back on missions in places where we are addressing very well-established threats. In the Middle East, for example, in reducing troop levels where we know there are terrorists. And it seems entirely inconsistent with me then that you then support the shifting of resources from well-established defense programs that are directly tied to meeting that central threat at the detriment of the NDS. I would just urge you to be consistent in your focus. The next question is, do you anticipate additional need for money or resources to meet the coronavirus threat within the DoD?
We have not had that discussion yet internally. What I'd like to do is consult with the chairman. This is moving pretty quickly, and then get feedback from my combatant commanders and principally General O'Shaughnessy, Northern Command, who has the campaign order right now, and maybe get back to you in writing on that one.
There is some urgency. I think that's urgency that we share and members of this committee share. Public health officials have been ringing the alarm bells for quite some time. I think we are out of time. General Milley, would you care to comment on that?
No, I think the Secretary is exactly right. We've got to get with General O'Shaughnessy and assess the situation, but also with Admiral Davidson and General Walters over in Europe, because it is spreading, we can't give you a definitive answer whether we're going to need additional resource or not. We are taking all the appropriate measures right now, and we're doing the estimates of the situation, so we owe you some answers.
Okay. The quicker you can get those, the better. Obviously, we're having the discussions right now about funding and resources. We'll need that information to make sure that we're working together with the Pentagon to meet what I believe is a very urgent threat. So we appreciate your urgency behind that. Secretary Esper, do you believe that climate change is real?
Yes, I do, Congressman.
Do you believe that it's a threat to our national security and to our military?
I don't believe it's a threat to our national security as I've traditionally defined it. I do believe it's a challenge for our military installations that are confronted with the impact of climate change.
Do you believe that the well-established threat of refugees, increased pandemics, instability, and increased terrorism that could result from all of that instability pose additional challenges for us from a national security perspective?
They do. It's a chain of events, right, that create certain situations. We see that in many conflicts, over time it's happened.
So destabilization and mass migration and refugee does pose a threat to our national security?
Well, it could create the situation by which we are encountered with a national security matter that could involve the military. But that's a series of ifs and whens and thises and that's.
General Milley, do you agree with that characterization?
I think climate change is real. I think it is probably going to result in increased destabilization with resource depletion, water, and things like that. You're going to see increases in diseases. There's a lot of second and third order effects. And does it impact on U.S. national security? Yes, it does.
Do you believe that we're making the efforts right now to address those increased threats?
I think we're making reasonable efforts, yes.
Do you believe that there could be more that we could be doing to address the threats?
Right now, in terms of the international piece, no. In terms of our basing and infrastructure here in CONUS, which was one of the previous questions, I think we've got to look at all of our infrastructure to make sure that it can withstand things like rising seas and increased storms and so on and so forth. And that is a level of effort DOD's been.
And the gentleman's time has
Thank you,
expired.
Mr. Chairman. I yield back.